Hey everybody, it is Kendall Anise, and welcome to Remixing Relationships. Having some technical difficulties. I hope you are doing well. I'm so excited about today's show. What are we talking about today? We're talking about romance, and this is going to be good. I apologize in advance. I'm not sure what's happening, but I want you to get this message. I always say when weird things like this happen, it's gonna be good. And it starts now.
Everybody, I'm Kendall Anise, your favorite life coach,
I'm
the
so
Remix
excited.
Coach. Life coach, Kendall Anise.
All right. I have a guest today, as I said, but before we get started, let me give a proper introduction. Welcome to Remixing Relationships, where we dive deep into the art of creating and sustaining healthy connections. I am Kendall Anish, your fave life coach, the Remix Coach, and together we will explore fresh perspectives and strategies to transform your relationships. Whether you're looking to strengthen, heal, or completely remix your love connections, you're in the right place. All right, so I have been anticipating this episode, and I believe already that we're going to have a part two. Because what are we talking about? We're talking about romance. So this is about remixing romance with a little, so excited, Romancipes. You might be wondering what that is, but you're going to find out soon enough. I have an amazing guest with me today. First, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so by clicking the subscribe button on my YouTube. You're also able to send super chats. I believe that is the heart with thanks in it. You can send super chats watching through YouTube. All right, so I just want to make sure I got all of the business out the way. Oh, and also you can be a part of this conversation. You can leave your comments and questions in the chat, and they will be featured right here. I might pull your question up. So we're going to be talking about romance. I just want to take a minute, right? And I want to ask you a few questions before I bring my guest up. All right. So I don't know if I want to ask that yet. Wait, but this is the thing. When we're diving deep into relationships and we talk about topics that will spark conversation and prayerfully change, right? Love doesn't have to fade over time. With the right mindset and the intentional effort, romance can stay fresh and exciting as well as fulfilling. So joining me today is a special guest. I will read his bio and then we're going to introduce him. But this guest specializes in helping couples reignite passion and deepen their connection. We're talking about surprises, spontaneity, communication, intimacy, and everything in between. H.W. Austin is a certified relationship coach and a diehard romantic, self-described as the romance gent. Austin is the creator of Romancipes. You get it? Like romance recipes. You're going to find out more. Austin is married to, I want to say wife's name's right. Tequila, a woman he affectionately refers to as Butterfly. So that's romantic already. Additionally, he has 3 adult children and 2 adorable children. He also has a little baby too, almost 4 years old. I'll let him tell you about her. Austin has been writing poetry, and he also enjoys spending time with his family, listening to jazz, playing Scrabble, and being a part of the praise team at Impact Worship Center in Georgia. Without further ado, H.W. Austin. This is my brother. We're already connected. Let's go. Hey, hey.
Hey, hello, sis. How are you? You took my 3-year-old and made her a 4-year-old in 2 seconds. She just turned 3. Can you hear me?
She's 3. She wasn't on here. So you just be thankful I added her. She wasn't on here. Maybe when you wrote the book, was she even born?
No, she wasn't born then. That's hilarious.
So the romantices, so then the romantices works.
Romancipes, absolutely, they do work. They absolutely work.
Romancipes work. So I'm
Yes.
sorry, guys, if it is a delay, please be patient, because I know I'm going to have this wonderful guest on for a part 2 because we have a lot to dive into. I have my notes. I also have his book right here. You see, I got some stuff tabbed, and we are going to get started. So, welcome everybody to this conversation. Feel free to leave your comments and questions. I will see them all, and your question or comment could be spotlighted here. If you want to support the show, definitely send the super chats. I'm told to make sure I do that because I just do it. I just be doing the show. I'm trying to be a good uh steward over what God has given me because I do this out of the love. All right. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I was writing some notes of my own.
I'm excited to have you. Your wife did your good setup. She did a nice
Yeah.
job back there.
Yeah. She was like, less is more, baby. Less is more.
And unless it's romance.
Right. Right. Exactly. That's a good plug. That's a real good plug. Yeah, because
Right.
the book doesn't have
Exactly.
less in it. The book got a lot more in it. So yeah, I agree.
Right. So this is his book. We're going to talk about how you can get it because I'm sure after this episode, you're going to want to get this book immediately. Get a couples. You want to get one and gift one because there's some good stuff in here. I'm flipping through. And you said that you're a romantic. I love romance. And sometimes you can have romance a lot of times for free. Why do you think people feel, and I'm just going to dive right in, feel that romance is going to cost them big bucks and they don't want to be romantic?
Television messes us up for one thing. Television and social media. You see grand gestures done via movie, via social media, and that's great. But a lot of people
Uh-huh.
they align that with cost. And so,
Yes.
sometimes, and so between cost and or, some people, and I particularly say guys, but it may apply to females as well. But a lot of guys just don't really know where to start. So they
Uh-huh.
assume it's going to cost them a lot of money, and then they don't know where to start. And so a lot of times when people say no to anything, it's because they don't have enough understanding about it. It doesn't matter what it is.
I love
So
that.
yeah, so your mate might be suffering because you just don't have enough understanding, and that's where Romancipes can come in and make you a romantic guru overnight.
Come on, romantic guru. That's what we're looking for. 2025. Let's thrive in 2025. Let's get that romance back. All right. So, why do you think when we talk about romance and keeping the spark? There's a song. I'm only going to talk to the old heads here who even knows who Regina Bell is.
Hmm.
And she has a song called After the Love Has Lost Its Shine,
Hmm.
right? Are we still going to be lovers? Are we still going to be friends? And it's a powerful song. And I saw that she ended up posting, she's been married to former NBA player John Battle for well over 20 something years. I believe it's going close to 30. And
Okay.
she put in the caption, our love has not lost its shine. And I love that because like the young people say, the people that get it. It was a plug, to her song. But
Yeah.
why do you think that some relationships lose their spark over time?
Well, part of that is intentionality goes away. One of there's so many prompts and motivations behind the book. And it's not just about plugging the book, although, I do that without a problem, but it actually has the theme behind it. Like, for instance, there are 52 romantic recipes, romancipes, right? I did that
Mhm.
because there are 52 days in the year, 52 weeks, excuse
Mhm.
me, in the year. Well, typically, when people are courting, just on average, they end up seeing each other at least once a week, right? You live in two different houses, you just getting to know each other. Typically, Friday night, Saturday nights, you go out with your new boo. There's a lot of intention that goes into that naturally. You're setting it up for the whole week, no matter what it is you're going to do. It's intentional, it's deliberate, it's planned. And so that that happens, right? So 52 weeks in the year, you got a whole year that you can do that, right? Now, people get real creative when they want to get your attention,
Yeah,
whether that's trying to get a relationship or get a job, right? And anything
that
in
part.
between. They will tell you what you want to
That part.
hear so that you can bring them on board with whatever you're doing. So you take that into relationships, and it's
Yes.
just like anything else. If you do not remain intentional, if you do not remain deliberate, which typically means that you are taking somebody for granted, normally when that happens.
Come
So
on.
that's where
Come on.
the lull comes in, and that's where you start having that fray and that little bit of separation. You're still there, you're still together. You may even, hopefully you're still fully committed, but you're not
Yeah.
intentional anymore because you've
Yeah.
caught your catch.
Yeah.
And so men are hunters and women like to be hunted. So both have to remain in their place so that
Yeah.
things stays lit, so the relationship stays on fire. So that's really the answer to the question. There could be many other
I
things, of
love
course,
that. And
but on the surface, it's about not
that.
being intentional or deliberate.
Yes. Your wife put a comment up. She said it definitely is not about, hi, wife. First of all,
Definitely is.
hi.
I had to
She
put my
said
glasses on so I could read it.
the cost. It's about effort and not the cost.
Exactly. And so
Yes.
one of
And
one
I
of the
totally agree because people do think, well, romance is going to cost me a lot of money.
right. And it absolutely doesn't have to. And what
Go for it.
a beautiful thing, and this is kind of like, just like with a typical cooking recipe, you can, a pinch of this, a dash of that, if you keep that concept in mind, right? Some people like sugar, some people don't like sugar, some people like monk fruit. It's a substitute sugar. So in other words, you got to get in where you fit in and you find what works for you, but that don't mean you don't bake the cake, right? So in the sense of romancipes, you get in where you fit in. If you've got a $50 budget, then that's what you do. If you have a $5,000 budget, you just scale whatever you were going to do for 50. There, and so there's no excuse for it when you really want to make it happen. So yeah, so the romancipes, everything in this book, it can be scaled, from small to great because it's really about substituting what doesn't work for you or what you might not have access to. But there's no excuse to not romance your boo. It just isn't. Sometimes it can be as simple and powerful as the right conversation. That didn't cost you anything. You just sit down, you hold hands, and you talk through something. It can be very romantic. Hopefully you can still hear me. Seem like you still with me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can now. It was a delay in there. Kendall? you went
me?
away for quite a while there.
I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yeah, it's very very sketchy audio, and your video is out right now. All right, so it looks like we lost our host. I know she'll be back in. So hopefully you guys can still hear me. If you can, just type something. Maybe I'll be able to see it. Not real sure because I'm not hosting the technical side of it. So hopefully you can still hear me. I'm just gonna ad lib a little bit because that's part of what I do. You can get the book. I think I saw one of the questions was where can we get the book? Again, this is the book cover and the name of Romancipes. Romance is served, and it can be purchased from Amazon very simply. You can get a digital copy, and of course, a paper copy, obviously, as well to be shipped out to you. But if you don't want to wait on the paper copy to come in, you can get that digital copy and go ahead and start, downloading some of those Romancipes and get in where you fit in. Like I said, it's just the concept is just something that came to me. I don't want to divulge too much without Kendall being on here because that was one of the things she wanted me to talk about was how I came up with the book, what inspired it, if you will. And so I would definitely want to answer that, but I want her to be able to hear that and kind of lead that discussion. But I will talk about what inspired me to write the book. But again, this is about remixing relationships. So it's not just about the book that I wrote, but it's just about us trying to do things and say things that will help you in your current relationship, or if you're not in one right now, you're in between relationships, or just holding out for God to send you that special person. It's all about getting ready, right? Getting ready and staying ready, keeping yourself where you are, because it's an old state saying that says what it takes to get one is what it takes to keep them. So that's really what this is. It's just about reiterating that point, and just trying to make sure you don't take people for granted, things like that. Just staying intentional, like I said earlier, staying deliberate. It's very important. People want to feel loved, they want to feel connected. There you are. I was trying to ad lib until you got back.
No, but I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I'm not sure what happened, but I said I heard you hold me down. I said, let me come out and come back in because I had no control over that. But you were doing a good job. I apologize, everybody. We're going to have him for part 2 anyway. So we're going to continue this conversation now. I just said a prayer and we're going to continue it later. But I didn't even ask you. You up for a part 2 as well before
Oh,
we even end
absolutely.
it?
Absolutely. All,
All right.
uh,
No, you were doing great. I appreciate that. Thank you guys for your patience. Had no control over that. I'm looking like everything is like lit up, so I'm not sure. I want to ask you this. So, what are some common mistakes couples make that lead to boredom? Because oftentimes in relationships, whether if you're together for a long period of time, and sometimes not even that long, some couples get bored. What do you think lead common mistakes that couples make that lead to them just being bored and just tired of the same old?
I would say some of that has to do with either, sometimes foundation, well, all the time, foundation is everything. So it could be, because it may not be the same for everyone, but it could be that the foundation was not as solid as it needed to be. Perhaps there was not
Mhm.
enough friendship built within the relationship in the beginning. Perhaps there was not enough conversation about common interest. Um, so having things in common is super important to prevent boredom. That doesn't mean that you have to be twins on everything, but it is
Yeah,
important to have, like-mindedness, especially for key
yeah,
things. So
yeah.
sometimes that was missed. Maybe. And again, all of these answers don't apply to everyone, but some of these answers will probably apply to just about every situation. Sometimes
Yeah.
people foundate their relationship with nothing but sex or, intimacy. And
Yeah.
there's nothing else to substantiate it. And then you get deeper into the relationship or into a marriage, as you pointed out. And now it's like, oh, wow, well, if we're not having as much sex, or the sex doesn't do the same thing, well, that's because there's not that much else that you added or tagged on to that. So it could be a myriad of
Yeah.
things, um, of which also could be someone's interest is somewhere else. It may not be on somebody else, because all the
Mm.
time the extra person is not a human. Sometimes it's a thing.
Talk
And
about that.
so,
Or
yeah,
career.
or a career.
A career,
Yeah.
family. Yeah.
Yeah, so it can have other so those basically I would call those attachments. You have other attachments, and if you don't bring your partner on board with that, or bring them along for the ride, or offer them the opportunity, to align with you on it, then boredom can
Yeah.
set in for the person that's not as involved. The last part of that, for sure, no matter what level it had to have happened on, everything is redeemable if you want it, right? So again, it's back to that intentionality and that being deliberate. So when
Hmm.
if a couple finds themselves there, it only takes one person to spark it well enough to where it can be healed. Meaning, you see it, and it's like at work when they say you see something, you say something.
Right,
So
right.
inside of a relationship, if you see something, you need to say something,
Yeah,
right? Now it's all about how you deliver it, because you've already
that
kind of see
part.
where you've lost them in
Yep.
some manner. So you don't want to come at them the wrong way, but you do need to come at them. A lot of people suffer in silence when they're inside of
Mhm.
relationships,
Mhm.
and that's not the answer, because that's
Yeah.
just going to lead to more separation.
Yeah.
So just the fact that someone can see it, express how they feel about it, and then be intentional about coming, like I said, coming alongside that person with their own, with whatever interests them. That was the part that I was going to say. You have to be
Yeah.
intentional about being interested in what the other person is interested in, even if that's not your real interest, because when you married them, you gave yourself up, you became one. So
Yeah.
your interests have to take a back seat to theirs, not all the time,
Yeah.
not every day, but that's where that commingling is necessary.
Yeah.
You take a role in being interested in what I'm interested in, and the next time it's on me. And if you
Yeah.
do that, then you can get it back and you can keep it. But it has
Yeah.
to be intentional. I know I keep using that word, but every relationship, even the most important one, which is between us and God, if we're not intentional,
Yes.
if we're not
Yes.
purposely stealing away,
Come on.
then God's hot for us, but we're not hot for him because we're not doing our
Yep.
part.
Yep.
So we have to
I
stay hot for
That's
each
good.
other, and that takes intentionality.
Yeah. We have to stay hot for each other. That takes intentionality. I like that. I was listening to a sermon today. Pastor Robert Madu, he's out of Dallas, Texas, and he's doing his series. I know my church did our series on relationships, but he's doing his now. And he said we're focused on looking for chemistry instead of character. And
Mm,
when he said that, and he's like, most people are looking for chemistry because that's what we hear. You have to be, you have to have something in common, obviously. But you just said something that triggered that. It's all about that intentionality. It's all about really the character of the person, like whether they're going to be able to say something. Are they going to communicate? Are they coming from a pure heart? Whatever that character is, um,
right.
I believe that will sustain you. What do you think about that statement? Instead of chemistry, focus on character.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I believe you still have to have a little chemistry, but that's not the only thing to keep it
A-
going.
Absolutely agreed. Another real now, don't take long for us to go deep, Kendall. We've known that for the whole week we've been talking about
Right.
this podcast. It's like,
Right.
okay, that turned real quick, right?
Right.
But one key word
Right.
for all relationships is that word unconditional. When you ask what will make someone
Yep.
become bored and what
Yep.
makes someone stop the pursuit,
Yep.
Someone
Yep.
is on a condition all of a sudden. They are
Yes.
conditionally
Oh,
loving
talk
that
about that.
person, and that
Yeah.
becomes a roadblock and an impediment to the
Yeah.
relationship. Because if you think about God, all the crazy stuff we do, as off
Yeah.
as we are, we always repenting for stuff, yet he has unconditional love for us. So no matter what we do, he literally is there for all of
Yeah.
it, right? He was like, if you make your bed in hell, I'm still with you. Just bring it back to
Yeah.
me, right? So where we get in trouble
Yeah.
with relationships the
Right.
most is when someone draws a line and says, you know what, I love you on condition now. If you do this or if you act that way, then I'll do that. Now they're not saying that out loud, but they're saying that with their actions. And so that could be a very big reason why boredom can set in, among other things, inside of a relationship. Someone has decided to be
Yes.
conditional in the way that they love their partner.
Yeah. And I think that happens a lot. You know, a lot of people have these stipulations in relationships. And if you do this, I'll love you this way. If you
Right.
don't do this, I'll take my love back. I'll punish you. It's unconditional because we if you want to bring, you're talking about God, like we do have to, we're not God, but we do have to love like that.
Yeah.
Because if we had conditions based off of what we do and how we behave, we would never have grace and mercy.
That's the truth.
It'd be a mess.
Never.
Because, and you know, so I think so many people, if somebody doesn't love that person the way that they think they should be loved, as far as, okay, well, based on this, I'm not going to love you like this, or I'm not going to tell you I love you, or I'm not going to be romantic
Right.
because I didn't like the way you chewed your food last night. So now I'm going to hold my love, I'm going to
Yeah.
hold my romance back.
Yeah.
And that's how petty people can get in relationships.
Yeah.
But when we look at God and you talk about that, sometimes we even think God is petty. And God is not that way. We think, okay, if we don't do this, then God is not going to give us that.
Right.
Right. So when
Right.
we talk about being unconditional, if we choose, because love is a choice, if we choose to love a person, right? We choose to be with this person, then we have to be able to accept the good, the bad, and the ugly. We're not talking about abuse.
Right.
We're not talking about any type of, you know, undeniable abuse in any kind of way. We're not talking about things like that, but
Yeah.
we're not going to not be kind to you because you left your slippers in the middle of the floor or
Yeah.
something foolish
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Oftentimes you hear things like that. I want to ask you about the impact of romance on an emotional connection. And I'm going to read some things. I bookmarked some of these things, but I want to talk about what can romance do for a relationship that's stuck in the same place, whether you're stuck in the 6-month spot, whether you're stuck in the 6-year spot. What
Right.
can implementing romance, and we're going to talk about some of the things, do to that relationship
I'll use the word kickstart.
or that relationship?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I'll use the word kickstart. Right. So when you have a bicycle and it's on a kickstand, it's just there. Like it's not moving. It's got
Right,
mad potential, a lot of potential.
right,
It's not going
right,
anywhere though because the kickstand is down, right?
right,
And so,
right,
but as soon as somebody comes by and decide, you know what, I'm gonna ride that bike, and they pull that kickstand up, they just kick-started the
right.
potential of that bike. And
Come
so
on.
that's what romance does, intentional. And I gotta say this to the guys that's watching and the guys that will hear it.
Hmm.
It's just like, and yeah, we talk a lot about God because that's what I know. That's what's got me where I am, right?
Come
But
on.
just
Talk it.
just like, yeah, because the Bible said, husbands love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave
Hmm.
himself for her. And it also says, husbands dwell with your wives according to knowledge. So
Yeah.
that tells me that the men have to be the leader. This
Hmm.
book was written by a man, not necessarily just for men, but I want this book to hit men's hands and I want them to get started and take that kickstand off that bike and kickstart
Yeah.
that romance and that relationship back up from where it is. Because when you do that, when we do that, men, it does something to our wives or our fiancés or our girlfriends. It
Mm-hmm.
they feel that, right? Because you can tell somebody you love them all day long. Some people like don't love me like that because nothing else is behind you saying it,
Right.
right?
It's
But
empty.
when it's empty, but when you are showing acts of kindness and acts of service, and you're being
Mm-hmm.
deliberate because you caught something that she said she liked 3 months ago or 2 years ago, and now you've pulled that into the equation, and she's like, I didn't even know
Yeah.
you knew I said that. I didn't know you remembered I said that. All of a sudden
Yeah.
now she begins to drop those, whatever the guards or
Yep.
whatever she may have had up.
Yep.
That's what romance does. I have a saying
Yeah.
that I coined. I didn't put it in the book, but I have a saying that I coined. Don't get mad, get romantic.
Don't get mad, get romantic. Come on,
Don't
talk
get
about
mad,
it.
get romantic.
Somebody's
So
like, Austin, what you mean? Don't get mad, get romantic. What can you
yeah,
explain that? What you mean by that?
yeah, because we're humans, there's always an opportunity to feel some kind of way with each other. I don't care
Yeah.
what kind of relationship you're talking about. Bosses, co-workers, parents to children, children to parents, lovers, the
Hmm.
pastor and the assistant pastor. Like it don't really matter. If it's a
Yeah.
relationship, because we're humans and humans are interesting. It's always an opportunity
Serious.
to feel some kind of way, to be upset, to be irritated. That's coming with the package just because you're
Yes.
dealing with a human. So you can
Yes.
either continue to focus on that or
Yeah.
you can get romantic, right? And so, yeah, that may not always be pulling out one of the romancipes and rolling out a bunch of red carpet. You might not be in
Yeah.
that mood for that in that
Yeah.
moment. But what you can do sometimes, it's romantic just to silence what you were about to say. That can be
That
romantic.
part. That part.
Because if you were about to say it wrong or strong or
Yeah.
loud or brash or
Yeah.
harsh, if you was about to
Yes.
be any of those things and you pull that back and you reel that in and you start praying under your breath, that can be romantic because the Bible says a soft answer turns away wrath.
Oh, then I've been romantic because sometimes in the middle of it, I would just start praying. Seriously, seriously, I would just
Yeah,
go right into
yeah,
prayer, right under my breath, and
yeah,
not in tuning whatever it is out or whatever it could be out. And I
yeah,
think that is an act of romance. I never even
absolutely.
thought about that.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
Another thing, because we talked about romance not costing you anything, right?
Yes.
So being tuned in matters. Touch is a super important component to living, right? So when you're at odds with your mate, a
Yep.
wonderful way to help with that is to just come together and just hold hands or put your hand on their leg. You may while having a tough conversation. It lets them know that you're
Yeah.
still with them, you're still engaged in, you have their engagement, they have your engagement. I'm not mad at you. We're just having a hard conversation.
Yeah.
But that touch can give the affirmation to each other during a process like that. And so,
100%.
there's so many subtle things that mean a lot. And you women are built to not, we can give you $1 million, but if we're not loving you right, that million don't count.
Woo! Say it for the people in the
It
back.
don't count. So y'all are built in a way that men, if we get it, we really could see, hey, I can romance her being broke because all I gotta do is tune into her.
Mhm.
Just tune
That
in.
part.
And you were
That
tuned
part.
in when you were courting, so you know how to tune in.
That part. That but you
So
know
just
what? You just said a mouthful because I think that's so important. And women often get a rap, I hear women talk about this all the time. And I say it like women are simple, but I think men think we're not. And I've heard women and I've talked about this before. But like you said, you hit it right on the head if they're tuned in. A
yeah.
man told me years ago he was in a marriage, and I've told this story on this podcast before. And he had been married to his wife, a client of mine, for I think it was like 40 something years.
Wow.
And someone asked, well, what is the secret sauce? And he said, a man has to learn his woman. If a
Yeah.
man learns his woman, he will be married and his wife will be satisfied the whole marriage.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
totally get. And when he said that, I just was listening. He didn't say women love learn a man, even though because women sometimes are more in tune
Right.
to their man and their needs and what they're doing, and you can just notice the little different things. But I think sometimes men aren't that in tune unless they're being intentional with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Would you agree? I mean, you're a man. I'm not, but would you think that that is often the case?
It absolutely is. And on that note, we got to remember we have a very real enemy,
Uh huh.
an adversary that hates marriages.
Uh
And
huh.
so when we talk about marriage, that's why it's so important to stay prayerful, to stay in
Yeah.
the face of God
Yeah.
as a man in particular, because
Yeah.
the devil hates marriage. And so
Yeah.
the reason that that's an important truth, because it is a truth, the reason that's important is because even on your best day, he's opposing you. So if you're not being intentional, using that word again, if you're not being
Mhm.
deliberate, if you're not seeking how God wants you to deal with that daughter, which is the same as knowing your woman, because
Mhm.
I just stated the word says dwell with your husband, your wives
Yeah.
according to knowledge. If you're not doing that, or when you're not doing that, just know that the enemy is pressing against you. He don't want you to figure that out. He don't
Yeah.
want you to flow in that. He
Yeah.
doesn't. It's just like he don't care about us going to church, but he cares about us changing
Yeah.
our character. He doesn't want our character to change. He don't care how many services we go to.
Come on.
So so back to the marriages or relationships, he don't care how much you utter, oh, yeah, I love you. If you're not showing her you love her, because words are futile if there's not the right action behind it.
Yes, they're empty. Mhm.
Yeah. So learning your woman, and that's her highs and her lows. I heard
Mhm.
a very
Yeah.
poignant statement one day from a preacher. He was preaching, and he said, "When you say I didn't say this. I'm giving credit to somebody else who said it, but I
Mhm.
loved it." He said, "When you say I do at that altar, you are saying I do to the woman in front of you, and you're also saying I do to the woman she will become.
Yeah.
And that could be she becomes something
Yeah.
on the upside, it could be on the downside. It depends on what life does to her. But you're saying I do to every iteration of that woman."
Yeah.
And so all of that requires us to be tuned in to our woman and to the God that we serve, because otherwise we're going to have a problem. We have a
Yeah.
problem. And so, because the
Yeah.
enemy is going to fight all of that. So that's
Yeah.
why, being
That's why you can't
purposeful,
that's why the couple can't be fighting each other because there's
you
the
know,
bigger fight.
yeah, it's a bigger
There's a
fight.
bigger adversary.
Yeah. And so we're not going to get it perfect. Of course not.
Mhm.
But that's why giving into each other, acquiescing to one another, that's important. You cannot have a successful relationship if you are selfish.
Yep.
You may have a selfish moment, but you cannot remain selfish. You just
Yeah.
can't, because the relationship is going to be in trouble if either party does that and stays there. It's going to be a problem.
Yeah. I think you said so you made so many good points, and I think it's so important to really for people to pay attention. In this podcast, everybody, some people are single, some are dating, some are engaged, and some are married. So I have a question.
Congratulations to
So
all of you.
right, 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 right. Everybody's in a different season, but the most important thing is everybody wants love.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be somebody's baby. Everybody wants to love properly. And this podcast is about promoting healthy relationships and doing things differently. It doesn't matter what you did before, not even just in a previous relationship or a previous marriage. It's even if it's what you didn't do 2 weeks ago in the current relationship that you're in and doing things
Mhm.
differently. And we always have the grace every single day to wake up and decide to intentionally be different and make better choices in the relationships, because so many people
Right.
have had so many unhealthy relationships they weren't even aware of, right? And if you grew
Yeah.
up seeing
Yeah.
unhealthy relationships, or you had friends or or just people in your lives, and you watch unhealthy relationships, whether they're on TV, you have no idea if you've only seen and been a part of unhealthy relationships. And that's
That's
why
right.
so many people sabotage healthy relationships, because they don't know how to function in something that is healthy. But
Yeah.
the person, both people have to be in pursuit of healthiness. And
Yeah.
because I could be healthy and you could be unhealthy, and then we're getting into a relationship, there's still going to be some unhealthiness, because, not saying again that you're supposed to be perfect or you're going to get it
Right.
right 100% of the time, but it's about pursuing and
Yes.
really sitting down, having the conversation, and really thinking about what you want. And many people talk about, oh, well, they did this and they did this. You have to make sure, in whether you're in a new relationship, an old relationship, a past relationship, as you're
Mhm.
reflecting, to understand what your part is in the relationship. Like, what do you bring to the table? We're not talking about jobs. We're not talking about tangible
Right.
things, but what do you bring it to this relationship that can enhance yourself and enhance the other person, and you can be an asset? Like, what are some of
Right.
the things that you can bring, and vice versa? And I think so many people we talk about having a seat at the table, and we talk about finances, and we talk about, well, if they don't have this, or they don't have the house, or they don't have the car, they don't have the money, or they don't have, yes, those things are important to a lot of people. But what type of, circling back to character, or what kind of
Yeah.
traits, or are you coming in as a light in that relationship, or are you bringing your darkness and your baggage into that relationship? I'm looking at your book. Well, I want to just address the audience. I see your comments. Thank you so much for watching live or the playback. Definitely put your questions or comments in the chat. And if you're watching on YouTube and you feel free, or you would like to support the show with the super chat, you can hit the heart button. It says thanks on there. And I think you can give 99 cents or something like that, just to show support of the show in the channel. This is all a labor of love. So I thank you in advance. It's not necessary to do that. But I just wanted to make sure I got that out of the way. But I want you to be a part of this conversation as well. If you have any questions for my guest or even myself, definitely put them in the comments. I'm going to go into the book
Mhm.
in momentarily, but I want to ask you another question, because when we talk about romance, right, love languages, and I want to talk about in the dating stage. If a person is not romantic as you're dating, will they be will they have romance in the relationship once they get engaged or married? That's a question someone has.
Well, they could, because all things are possible, right? So
Yep.
could they morph into that? Of course they can. How you could help them with that is going back to something I said earlier, which is talking to the person about what your needs are, right?
Mm-hmm.
So outside of that, they're not going to even know that that's something you want. So it would be important to have that conversation before you get too deep in the relationship, and or obviously
Right.
getting into marriage, because if it's
Right.
not one of those things that you don't want to compromise on, it doesn't really matter
Right.
what. It could be children or romance, right? If you don't want kids, it's a very important topic to bring up, right?
Right.
But
Right.
if you
Right.
want two, and you're talking to somebody who wants a basketball team or a baseball team, like 8 to 10, that's going to be a conflict, right?
Yeah.
So I know that seemed like I'm going around to answer the question, but I'm trying to set up the answer, because in most cases, you can't change people. Not that you're trying to do
Mm-hmm.
that, but most people
Mm-hmm.
are stuck on what they're stuck on.
Yeah.
There are some things that can be changed, like having 10 kids is different than can you be romantic.
Right.
But either way, it has to be communicated well, and the person can. So the question was, can they? Yes,
Mm-hmm.
they can. Should you count on that? I'm not so sure about that. I think
Yeah.
at that point you have to evaluate how important is it to you if they don't change. I think that's a better
Yeah.
question,
Right.
because if it matters that much to you, then it's going to matter all the time, right? But
Yep.
if, on the other hand, you then, because again, we're not we're not wanting to be selfish inside of a relationship. So it could be one of those things where you go, well, you know what? They're not that romantic. I'm not sure that they ever will be. Let me see how they respond to me being romantic.
Yeah.
Because then that's a better barometer for what you're going to face.
Yeah.
So
That's
if you
good.
give them romance and they react well to that, then you're good, because now you still get what you want, because you can, inside of that gesture, they can
Yeah.
do some things for you. But if,
Yeah.
on the other hand, you give them that and they recoil and they show no interest, then now not only are they not going to romance you, they're not going to accept your advances and
Yeah.
romance. And that
Yeah.
could be a deal breaker.
And people don't think about that because some people do not respond to a lot of different things. Like you could be doing
That,
backflips and somebody might not respond, or you could be
absolutely.
doing things that are romantic and they may not even realize or know. Um, so it's interesting. That's why it's so important to have conversations and really
Yeah.
get to know who you are. That way you
Mhm.
know what you like and what you don't, and you're able to express yourself articulately.
Yeah.
Like somebody might say, well, I want romance. And the next person might say, well, what is that?
But
And
what
you're
is
looking
that?
at them like, I don't even know how to explain it. So if you
Yeah.
don't know how to explain it to someone, then how are you going to expect it? So I think the communication really needs to be strong in order to have conversations like that,
Yeah.
without someone getting offended or getting
Yeah.
their feelings hurt. I think we need to have more open conversations and dialogue about what the expectations are in a relationship, in a marriage, or in a courtship.
Yeah.
In your book, you talk
Real
about the
quick.
purpose. Uh huh.
Excuse me, real quick. I want to add
No,
one
you're
more
fine.
thing to that.
Sure.
So I think it's important that we realize and understand that inside of a relationship, there has to be opportunity for growth.
Yes.
There's this almost this notion that people have to come with everything already pre-filled to for you to be happy.
Hmm.
Whatever you're looking for, you want that person to have all of it. And then if they don't have all of it, then it's a problem. Well,
Right.
if that's the case, then you're not leaving any room for growth. And one of the most beautiful things about relating is growing together, helping
Yes.
to get each other to the point where you something that you like and you love. Now, some things are non-negotiable. I get that. But some things you have to leave room for growth. And romance could clearly be one of those, because it's not like brain surgery, to the marriage. It's
Yeah.
something that it can be a variable. It can
Yes.
change. But maybe you just have to help that person grow into how you want to be romanced,
Yeah.
instead
You
of
sell.
just dispelling the notion that it won't happen.
Yeah. I think that's good. I think, but you have to leave room for that growth and
You
and
have
for
to.
someone to make adjustments, right?
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah.
it's so important to communicate, because some people are sitting there with their arms crossed, pouting, right?
Yeah.
Because they're not getting what they need in a relationship. But they've never gave the person a chance to provide what they're looking for because they weren't able to articulate it, or they want to sit and sulk and think somebody is a mind reader, and then
Yeah.
they're supposed to just automatically know what they need and want. People, you got to use your words. You got to be able to have dialogue, and you got
Yeah.
to be able to tell your mate, because it's not fair if you're a woman out there and vice versa. It goes both ways.
Yeah.
And you're feeling a certain type of way, and you expect your man or your woman in that case to be a mind reader, and you're sitting there pouting because they don't know what you need. You got to give them an opportunity to change their behavior and to be able to give you what you need. But if
Yeah.
you just leave the relationship or you just shut down, you're not being fair to the other person, because you're not giving them an opportunity to make the adjustments.
Yeah, exactly. And on that note, also, this is why it's so important to, well, okay, I'm going to use another scripture. If God says, and he does say, come, let us reason together.
Hmm.
If God says that, then why can't we say that to each other?
Yes.
We have
Yeah.
to reason with one another, because everything won't necessarily come the way that we either want it or think we want it. But another thing you
Yeah.
said it earlier, and this is a good place to replug that. Some people, the view or the template that they had for a relationship
Mm-hmm.
was void of a lot of things.
Yeah.
And it could have been void of the one of the things that you want in the relationship. But if they didn't have a template for it,
Yep.
it might be something you want to come reason with them on, as long as it's
Yeah.
not a major deal breaker type of thing, because they don't know what it looks like.
Yeah.
And so when you don't know what you don't know, guess what? You don't know
You
it.
don't know.
You
And
don't
then,
know
but
it.
that's how so many relationships where the breakdown happens and
Yeah.
people stop talking to one another, people stop spending time looking at each other. You know, some couples don't even look at each other. I've seen it a million times doing couples coaching or just being an observer. Like
Yeah.
some people, I did a exercise when I spoke at a conference and I said, look at your mate for 10 seconds. 10
Mm.
seconds, just look into their eyes. They
Wow.
couldn't, some could not do it. 10
Wow.
seconds. They were
Wow.
like this. They could
Mm.
not do it. I'm talking about the couple that did it. They had been married for some years and they
Yeah.
did it. It was only two couples out of several couples that were able to look at each other for
Wow.
10 minutes. I mean 10 seconds, not even 10 minutes, 10 seconds. So people are in relationships and not just passing like trains in the night, but in the same room, not
Yeah.
even looking at each other, like not even bringing that eye contact, because I think there's a level of romance there when
Oh,
you're looking at
absolutely.
somebody and really seeing them, not just looking
Absolutely.
past them, looking this way or looking that way. And I think there's so many subtleties in romance, and I think
Yeah.
people are looking for the movie definition of romance, but romance is what you two feel is romance. And I'm
Yeah.
going to get into this book. You got some good stuff in here. I'm trying to tell you. But you said romance, this is the purpose of this book. You said romantic ideas for men to get in their woman's mind, not in their panties. Right.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's a lot of times. Can you and I want to read something else. You said lay out romantic ideas for men in the form of a recipe that when follows makes them an instant romantic guru. So
Yeah.
let's talk about the purpose of the book and being able to get into the mind and not just the intimacy part you said earlier,
Yeah.
just going straight to the bedroom, but really forging a connection. Can you talk more about that?
Absolutely. So, if you ever heard of, and I know everyone has, so I'm saying this as a rhetorical, if you ever heard of the phrase one night stand, what you never hear that goes along with that is that they got in their mind or their mind is blown. Like, you don't hear that because it
Yeah.
was a one night stand. That's all it was.
Yeah.
So they got in the pants, but that's as far
Yeah.
that's where they got. That was the goal. Both parties agreed, and that's all that happened. Nothing
Right.
deep, nothing long lasting. They ain't even called each other anymore, right?
Yeah.
So I say that because if you put that inside of a relationship, then that's where that statement comes in, get in her mind and not her panties. The second
Mhm.
part of that statement that I didn't put in the book is because once you're in her mind, guess what? Guess where else you're going to be, right? You're going to be in
Right.
the place you want to be.
That's
Now,
real.
this is, and just because this is a Christian, kind of thing, I do mean that inside of a marriage, when I say that.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I
No,
do
I
mean
get
that
you.
because you
Yeah.
can be in the marriage and no longer have as much access to her pants as you used to because you're not in her mind the way you used to be.
There are a lot of marriages out there that lack intimacy in all kind of ways, and people are just in relationships. So you're absolutely right. With marriages, I have to look at the statistic again because I talked about this before. As far as the intimacy level is all the way down. That's why 50% of marriages end in divorce, because people are not connecting anymore
Yeah.
in all
Yeah.
ways. And it's so important to connect.
Yes.
When you think about, can you have romance in your marriage, in your courtship, right? um without communication.
Can you have romance in the marriage or courtship without communication?
Yes.
Only if that's the romancipede that you've chosen.
Love that. I love
Maybe,
that.
yeah, because I literally have one that you pretty much do in silence, but there's other things that you're doing while you're silent.
Yes.
Right. So
Right.
so if there's not some other stuff going on or intended to go on, if that's not, if, so the communication has to be part of the romantic gesture, or the
Yeah.
non-communication, I should say, where we're just gonna stare into each other's eyes. I'll take your cue. We're just gonna stare into each other's eyes and try to keep our hands off each other for as long as we can until we just
Yeah.
can't take no more. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a good kind of non-communication. If you're
Right.
not on that level, if it's just you're not talking,
Right.
then it's pretty hard to get romance out of that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would say pretty impossible, unless
Yeah.
there's really just that's just a caveat for where you're trying
Yeah.
to go. Otherwise,
Yeah.
no. Yeah. Otherwise, no.
I like this. That's good. I'm looking at some of the Mantastic massage. Massages are an amazing way to show your love and affection to your mate. And you break down the ingredients. Get yourself a massage table, electric warp. So I'm looking at this. You
Yeah.
said use the index cards, create 5 to 10 Mantastic coupons that
Yeah.
entitle her to 30 minutes of massage time that she can redeem over a course of 1 month. Be sure to put an expiration date on them. You want her to be eager to use them during the month. Play her favorite music. You spa theme. You said Pandora or Spotify. Set the. You're breaking it down. You talk
Yes.
about and I'm gonna let you have all of that, and then we do a part two. We're gonna really, really get into the book. So when I was reading Romancipes 23, I cracked up because you gotta be a person of a certain age if you don't get it. He said the Mac Daddy vibe. Now, if you are a certain age, you know that's boomerang. It's the Mac Daddy vibe I'm giving you.
It's
As
a
soon as
Mac
I
Daddy
saw
vibe. Come on
that's
now.
the Mac Daddy vibe. So you said ingredients: prop, work boots, Timberlands, gloves, suspenders, handcuffs, glasses, mock runway, strobe light, right? Working man outfit. Let's talk about that. So are you talking let's talk about it's some good stuff here. It's some romantic stuff that um I'm looking at some of them, right?
Hmm.
And they're so easy to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
so simple to do. And people, why do you think that people oversimplify or undersimplify romance? Because some of the things you have in here, it's not costing anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, again, I think some of that is just what we look at and what we're told that romance is supposed to look like. He went,
Mhm.
okay, let's just say he went to Jared. That's one of the most romantic phrases that anyone ever came up with for marketing, right?
Every
Every kiss begins with
K,
K,
every kiss
right?
begins
So
with K.
already, bruh man thinking, I'm not about to go to K or
You say I'm
um
going to the pawn shop.
you know what I'm saying? So he automatically dismisses and dismounts the idea of romance, in
Right.
part based on what he's seeing that they say romance
The
is,
imagery.
or
Yeah.
the imagery. Taking her on a cruise. It's like, all right, well, I'm gonna be out of 2 grand. I don't have 2 grand. Whatever, right? So
Yeah.
those are very real things, because
Uh-huh.
men, in a lot of ways, we have to have stuff simplified to get started. Then we can get
Yeah.
creative once we get started. But if we don't start, then we're not going to get creative, right?
Yeah.
So back to just the Mac Daddy vibe, for instance, you and again, it depends on your budget. If you don't have a budget at all, guess what? You can still do this, because you can just go in your closet and you pick out 3, 4, 5 outfits that you know your woman likes on you or loves on you, and you just give her a spontaneous GQ runway modeling
Yeah.
show. You're her model for the evening.
Come on.
She'll eat that up. Just because you thought to do
Facts.
that she would never see that coming. But inside that book,
Right.
this book,
This book.
inside that, yeah, there are things like that. I have one, I forget what I called it, but it's simple. It's so simple. You just mailing her a love letter. Who mails love letters anymore? You
I
lit
love that. It was
you
so many things in this book that you can do. And I did a video the other day just talking about how people don't even try to look nice for their mate anymore. You know what
right.
I mean? They're not even putting on anything smelling good. It's the same old
Yeah.
same, like
Yeah.
not the same. You know what I mean? Not
Yeah.
doing it. But then when they go outside, you know,
Yeah.
they're looking nice for everybody. But men and women get lazy with it.
Yeah.
And it's and one of my favorite romancipes was 30 bearing gifts. Like
Mm.
I love that. And you said something that is so true. Let me see if I can find it. You said you're talking about Build a Bear and watch, you said watch her little girl
My little
emerge.
girl.
And
Yeah.
that's what happens. Like with little
Yeah.
stuff like that, I don't care how old the woman is, you are going to bring, I always call it bring the soft and pink. Bring the
Yes.
soft and pink out of any woman.
Yeah.
Um and it was another, which one? Cuz I got them all. Blackout. You want to talk about Blackout for a
All
moment?
right.
Page
Which one is that?
133. Romancipede 32.
Romancipes 32. Okay, page 132. Okay,
Yes,
got you. All right,
cuz
so
it's
let's go
simple.
there. Let's go there. Page 131. Y'all, I wrote this book a few years ago, so I don't have them all memorized. Just in case. Yeah,
That's all right.
this one's so simple, doesn't cost you a thing. And
That's what I'm saying.
maybe a trip to Family Dollar or Dollar General for some potpourri and some candles. Maybe if you don't already have that. But it's
Dang.
simple.
And I'm gonna
The
one up y'all. Go to TJ Maxx or Marshalls because the soy candles, at least you get the scent.
oh
Sometimes I don't know
they
that dollar
they
store, you might
they
not smell nothing.
there you go, scaring that man. He ain't got no $30 to go to TJ Maxx.
He
I'm
got
just kidding.
he got 7.99. He got seven ninety
he
nine.
he
Okay,
got seven. He got
he
seven
got
ninety
seven
nine.
ninety nine.
But
Five
it's
ninety nine for
simple.
the little candle.
Yes, the ingredients I do co-sign on the soy candles though, so that's a good plug. But the ingredients are simple. You get candles, you get potpourri, some music, and it's you and her. The directions, you decorate her favorite space in the house with candles. So it's not the whole house. Where's her favorite space? That goes back to you knowing something about her, right?
Yep.
So there's that. So there's all these subliminal messages that go along with this that lets that woman know that you're really tuned into her. So you use soy candles if she has a sensitive system. I try not to leave anything out. They burn clean without pollutants. Potpourri is also a nice touch with the setting. Obviously, it smells good. Be sure that the candles are not near anything hazardous or flammable. That seems simple, but some guys they might not think of that. They might be so excited they forget, and it's too close to something.
It's
Then
so simple.
it's no longer romantic. But it's an easy romance appeal. It doesn't cost you a dime, or it may cost you 10, 15, $20. Um, and so the objective here is peace and tranquility, so that
Mm-hmm.
you have a period of time where there's no talking. You
Mm-hmm.
simply hold her and assure her that you've got her back no matter what. So this isn't touch for sex. This isn't, hey, babe, let's talk about this or that. It's
Mm-hmm.
just a peace and tranquil opportunity, a blackout, nothing lit but the candles. And you're just holding her and just letting her bask in your being there for her. No agenda. No
I
agenda.
love that. I
Yeah.
love that. One of my favorites was go to page Romancipede 35, right?
All right.
Um Sunrise
Oh
set.
yeah,
Sunrise
yeah,
sunset.
yeah.
This was really, really good. And I'm just looking at some of them. It costs nothing.
Cost nothing.
Like this literally costs nothing. The ingredients are sunrise, sunset, a setting, and you and her. You don't have to pay $5.99 for that unless you got to put it in your
Nope.
tank if you're trying to go somewhere. But listen, the
Exactly.
directions are, this one is simple, fellas. You tell them, research the city you live in and find out where the best sunrise and sunset point is. If she is early riser, Get out early, grab a cup of coffee or her favorite morning beverage, take her to the spot you found so she can see a magnificent sunrise. Choose sunset if she doesn't care about getting up early. Be sure I mean, come on now. We got to bring this romance back, because this is simple. Talk about this.
Yeah.
Like we got to do
So
something for the people.
what you say? You got to do something for the
We got to do
people.
something for the people.
Yeah, this is one of those. Now, this is one of those knowing your mate. And maybe that may not even be something you ever heard her say, but because it's so simplistic, but it's also very intimate. Because as we know, there's a difference in sexual and intimacy. So
Yes.
this is a way to be
Oh,
intimate with your
guys,
with your
so,
mate.
so let's pause for a minute. So,
Yeah.
if you don't know the difference between sex and intimacy, there is an episode right here on Remixing Relationships called exactly that, the difference between sex and intimacy. So, when you finish watching this, watch that episode.
Watch that, and I didn't even know. So there you
Look
go.
at that.
I had
Carry
no
on.
idea.
And I want if your wife, if you're still here, I want to hear from her because I want to ask her what she thought when you wrote the book. But go ahead, finish.
Well, it's interesting you said that. When I wrote this book, we didn't even know each other.
Shut up.
We did not know
Oh,
each
you
other.
said
So
you did tell me this in a pre-interview. This was
yeah,
you were married before, and
yes.
this was after, this is when you were single in between, right?
Yes, yes. I wrote. All right, so I'll give you background on the book because I held this out while I was trying to filibuster when you was away, and I was going to give this away. Then I was like, no, no, no. I know you're going to want to hear it, so I didn't do that. But while married for the years that I was, I would go and do things and be in the store picking stuff out and getting stuff together, and women would come up to me and they're like, "Oh, it must be your girl's birthday," whether wife or girlfriend, they didn't know, so they just said, "It must be your girl's birthday." And I'm like, "No, actually, it's not." It's like, "Oh, okay, well, it must be your anniversary." I was like, "No, actually, it's not." The third thing, all of them would always say, "Well, you must be in the doghouse," and I would say, "No, actually, I'm
Isn't
not.
it
It's just."
sad?
I'm like, "No, it's just Wednesday afternoon, and this is
Come
something I
on.
wanted to do."
Come on,
Or it's just
Wednesday.
Monday. Come on, it's a Monday night, and I just decided to stop and get whatever I'm getting.
Yeah.
And I would hear, now not all of them would say this, but I heard on repeat for years, "Wow, you need to put that in a book. My husband could use that. My boyfriend could use that, right? He don't have a clue," things like that. Then I would also, because we had children, so I would get stuff for the kids, and I had a boy and a girl.
Mm-hmm.
But when it came to Valentine's, I would pick them stuff out and take it
Mm-hmm.
home to them. So I would romance my kids even, right?
Yeah.
Because they were from the union of the marriage, so I romanced
Yeah.
them too. And so I would hear people say, "You need to put that in a book."
Mm-hmm.
Well, for all those years, I was like, I don't know, a book. Like, who wants that in a book, right? So I didn't do anything with it, but obviously it stayed in my head. Now, fast forward, I got divorced. A few years later, I decided to put it in a book. I'm like, who knew? I mean, so I put it
They
in a
planted
book.
the seed. They
They
planted
planted
the
the
seed.
seed, and I took it and ran with it. And that's also when I became a certified life coach and decided to let relationship be one of those niche places.
Yeah.
But interestingly, um, the year I wrote the book, I didn't release the book. I just wrote it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was super excited about it. I got my certification that same year,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't release it. And it was the next year that I met my now wife. I
Yeah.
met her and we started courting. And at some point I decided, you know what, I'm gonna release this book after I'm married.
Wow.
And so 2 years after writing the book is when I actually released it. And by that time I was married to Tequila. So yeah, so she got to be a byproduct of some of these romancipes, but the book was already written.
I love that. But you know what? You said that you're a self-proclaimed like romance gent. Where did you find the love for romance and what allowed you to be able to express yourself romantically in that way in your relationships?
What was the first part of what you said? Where did I find what?
Where did you find, because you said you're this self, I'm gonna put right exactly what you said. You said self-proclaimed romance gent.
Hmm.
Like, where did that come from? Who taught you how to be romantic? Why was it important for you to show the romance?
You know, I as a kid I didn't call it romance because I didn't even know what that word was, right? But I
Yeah.
will say that I grew up in a two-parent household. I was blessed to be able to grow up like
Uh-huh.
that. And so, four kids, mom and dad. Mom and dad both did pretty neat things with us. Dad was always playing games with us, and he would
Mhm.
be the one that called game night, and take us places and take us to the beach, and he would just stop his work schedule, and we would just be off somewhere doing something for little family
Love it.
short vacations. We
Mhm.
didn't have a whole lot, but he didn't let that stop him from creating moments for us and taking us here or taking us there, or
Uh-huh.
even on a small scale. But we were always excited when we got in that car and we was going somewhere with mom and dad. Right now, at that time, I didn't know that I wasn't calling it romance. Like I said, no one was, but he
Yeah.
was being intentional. He was being purposeful. Right
Mhm.
now, mom, on the other hand, again, not calling it that. But mom would always be very, because as women are, she was very creative. So for Valentine's, we were all her sweethearts, like all of us, right? And so she would do
Yeah.
something neat for all of us. At
Mhm.
Easter, she made cakes that looked like bunny rabbits. Like she
Mhm.
was, and she would even sometimes decorate the Christmas tree with Easter eggs, right? So she
Yeah.
was always doing stuff that, in hindsight, she was being romantic with her family,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And so those were the seeds. Now, again, I wasn't calling it that then, but those things I always took note that, or notice rather, that our parents did stuff with us.
Yeah.
And so as I became, a husband and then a father, I did stuff because I'm like, that's what I saw
Yeah.
mom and dad do, right? And
Yeah.
and even I'll circle back a little bit, even as kids, so when we became like teenagers, we had our own little monies. When mom's anniversary would come around every year, the kids would buy our parents something for their anniversary. So
Yeah.
we were paying it back, but not even realizing that we were being romantic because every year we gave them something. We might have drew it, we might
Yeah.
not have bought it. We may have to have drawn it out on a postcard, but we were doing something for our parents. And so those were the seeds that I would say that were
Yeah.
sown and shown, and those were the templates. And I guess like every generation, you hope your kids outdo you. I guess
Yeah.
my evolution was this. It just evolved into what I now call romantic gestures. And so, yeah, romancipes. I think time spent is so super important in families and
Mhm.
relationships. You have to spend time. It needs to be quality. You
Yeah.
have to have affirmation, because to me that's what really keeps people close. You have
Yeah.
to affirm each other and
Mhm.
be affirmed. And so
Yeah.
that's where it evolved from.
I love that because that's a prime example of a quote that I say all the time. More is caught than taught.
Yeah.
So they didn't sit down and teach you and say, okay, you need to do this for each other. This is
Right.
what we do. They showed you through their love for one
Yeah.
another, and they
Yeah.
showed you guys through their actions to you. So it
Yeah.
automatically jumped on you, if you will.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's why it's so important to set the example. I often say it doesn't matter if you have two-parent household or one parent, because if you have a two-parent household, your parents were unhealthy, they were not showing each other love, not showing you guys love, you didn't feel it, then it's not. And then you have a single parent and they're pouring everything into
Yeah.
you. So
Yeah.
it's so important the reflections you see.
Yeah.
So guys
For sure.
out there, don't look at yourselves because like, oh, I came from this family or that family, or my parents didn't do this, so that means I'm not, or my parents do. That's the thing. And that's doing things differently. Some people have an amazing example, right? Healthy love, right? And some people have unhealthy love, but
Yeah.
either way doesn't mean that you're going to be whatever they were, good or bad. So it's still up to you to be intentional about
Exactly.
your relationships and even changing the narrative, even even if it's for yourself or for your family, because you can
Yeah.
always do things differently. Like I said, you can be married 10 years right now and things may not be working right, or they might be working and just stale. You can
Yeah.
still remix your relationship. You can
Absolutely.
still remix your romance. All right, so we're winding down, but how can little unexpected gestures make a big difference in somebody's relationship, marriage?
Yeah. So again, I know I'm kind of repeating, but it really all kind of comes in as base level, right? So it's all about when those things happen, you are showing the person that you're tuned in. I mean, it's as base level as it gets. You're showing them that you're tuned in. Um, and sometimes you have to do it in spite of the person. Maybe they're not giving you their very best at that time. And they know it, because if you know it, then they probably know it, right? But
Yeah.
if you're on that whole thing of don't get mad, get romantic, it's not about a feeling. I got to make sure I say that, because if you wait on a feeling, you're probably not going to do it.
Yep.
It
That part.
had some. My wife and I wrote our own vows to each other, and one of the vows that I wrote to her is, I promise to love you not just with my heart, but with my decisions.
Love that.
So you have to make decisions about the person that you're in relationship with. You have to
Yeah.
decide, no matter
Yes.
what, I'm gonna give you
Yes.
my best. You're not
Yes.
giving me your best right now, but guess
Yes.
what? I'm gonna give it to you anyway because I love you. And love is way past goosebumps at that point, because you might not
Yes.
have one goosebump when you make that decision.
Yes.
But you have to be decisive, because I'll say it this way: if you're not going anywhere, and we don't advocate you go anywhere, so I'm making a point here. If
Mm-hmm.
you're not leaving and she's not leaving, then stop fighting. You ain't going
Y'all
nowhere
better
anyway. So
figure
just go on and have some fun. You're not
right
going
that
anywhere.
part.
So you might as
Right.
well just have fun. Okay, you need a
Right.
timeout. I need a timeout. But after that timeout, we're gonna go have some fun.
Have some
Right.
fun.
You just gotta
Y'all
make a
put some,
decision.
if
That's a
you're trying to have
decision.
some fun, put some thumbs up in the comments. I want to
Yeah,
see that.
just
If
go
y'all
have
trying to
fun.
have some fun, put some thumbs up. So you
Yeah.
have one. So my boyfriend laughed, said that I do this prior to us getting, this is what I do. When I go here, this is what I do. He was like, "What? You bring that?" And you got it in the book. Score for me. So used on your romanticides, I said romantices, uh,
Romancipes.
romancipe, like romance and recipe. 41 double feature. You
Oh
said two.
yeah.
You said
Yeah.
I love the movies. I still do. You said you said for the man to pre-purchase tickets for two movies, one
Hmm.
matinee and one evening show. You said then have a lunch or dinner spot, a jacket, or throw a blanket for her in case the movie gets cold. I got a movie blanket, and when I told him I had a movie blanket, he was like, "What? You got a move? You gonna bring a blanket to the movies?" Yes, that's what I do. So when you said for the man to pack a blanket if she gets cold, I loved it. I read that. I was like, I got my movie blanket. But it says, and in comfortable clothes, this will be a long date. I love this.
Yeah,
Being in the
everything on
movies
the
all
double that
day.
day. Everything on the double that day. Double
I
double dinners, or double, restaurants, double movies, everything on the double.
I love it. And it's called Double Feature.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
name of this romancipede. And you said the directions: take her to a matinee show of her choice, take her
Mhm.
to a nice lunch, take her back to the theater to an evening show of her choice, take her to a fine dinner afterwards. This will be a long date, so make it fun and and be sure to take her to see something she and you really wants to see, even if you don't. Be a good
There you
sport.
go.
It's all about romancing her.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you're probably gonna see a chick flick that day, guys. I'm just telling you. They
Be the
might
best
both be chick
one.
flicks.
We're gonna see a romantic comedy.
That can work
and
too.
then a tearjerker, and then a tearjerker at the end. But you have so many uh good romancipes, and it's 52 in here.
52. Mhm.
One for every week. of the year. So I definitely
Absolutely.
want to have you come back to do a part two. You gonna do a part two?
I'd be
Uh
glad
oh.
to.
You gonna do a part
Absolutely
two?
glad to. Absolutely. Absolutely. Before we get off of this part, I just want to repeat something that I said to you earlier this week, when I talked about God allowing U-turns. So before I leave, I
Yes.
just want to leave that
Please
with
talk about
somebody
that.
tonight. God allows U-turns, guys. And we're talking about relationships. So in that specifically, I'm saying God allows relationship U-turns. You're talking to a guy who I'm living that. I'm living the latter being greater than the former, and that's not a comparison of one wife to another. That's not what I mean when I say that. When the Bible talks about God making your latter greater than your former, He's really just saying that He is restoring you to a place of laughter, joy, peace, tranquility, the same way you were before all the trauma, drama, or whatever
Yep.
happened. And whether you did it or whether the devil did it, either way it goes, you need God to get you out of it. So it doesn't matter.
Ooh.
And the enemy is a master at trying to convince us, as I was convinced for years, that because I messed up so much stuff, I wasn't deserving of another chance at a daughter of God. I wasn't
Mm,
deserving to be happy again.
mm,
That's a trick from the enemy, guys. So, and I don't care who shot John here. It doesn't matter. If you did something, you
mhm.
messed it up, and you just tore down a mansion with your bare hands, relationship wise. It
Yep.
doesn't matter. God allows U-turns. So
Yep.
you just give it to him. And even if no matter where you are and what you think you've done and what you think you deserve or what you don't deserve or what you may never get back, God is a God of mercy. He is a God of grace. And I am a living witness being married to a wonderful woman again. I call Butterfly. I've got three adult kids. One's 36 years old, and now I have a 3-year old, right? So God allows U-turns,
Yes.
and beautiful things happen when He does. He said He gives beauty for ashes. So even if you
Yes.
made an ashy mess of your life, as I had done previous, God
Come on.
He is a master at bringing beauty out of that. So I call it ashtrays to artwork. He takes ashtrays and he turns them into artwork. And
Yes.
so that's the God we serve. That's how much
Good.
he cares about you. That's how much he cares about how you feel. And so don't be deceived by the enemy. Don't trick yourself into thinking that you can't have, a remix in a relationship and no love again. You absolutely can. I'm a living witness. He'll bless you. He'll knock your socks off. And he does allow you turns. So just turn around. Just turn around. Go back the other way. That's all you got to do. It's that simple. He receives it.
Turn around. Come on, God.
Turn
I
around. Go
mean,
back the other way.
when we were talking about that earlier this week, it was so powerful. And I'm glad you were like, definitely. I wanted you to talk about that. Your wife said God is definitely a restorer, a hundred
Yes.
percent. He
Yes.
will restore. And so many people have lost hope and faith and love. And, whether married, divorce, or something
Yeah.
not working out, or you're feeling, there's a lot of people out there who are feeling unworthy of love. But we're
Yeah.
here to tell
Yeah.
you that you are worthy of love. You are love. God is love, and you were born in love. So you're always going to be lovable, right? I want you to do
Absolutely.
the work on yourself. Put God first. It's so important to do that. But do the work on yourself so you can have the healthy love that you desire and deserve. And then this is what I say: if you're out there dating and you're looking for love, make sure you have the hard conversations up front. If they don't
Yeah.
believe what you believe as far as God, if they're opposed to therapy, counseling, coaching, if
Yes.
they don't want to do
Yes.
anything, run the other way, because you're going
Absolutely.
to walk into an unhealthy situation right off the rip. And if you don't have
Absolutely.
God to anchor you, right, and to go to God if problems are going on in your relationship or your marriage, and then you ain't trying to go to therapy, you ain't going to counseling, it's a done deal.
It's a
We're
done deal.
doing
So just a
things
matter of time.
differently.
It's a
It's a
matter of
matter
time.
of time. So we
Period.
all talk about God is love, right? Every wedding on back in the day in the 80s, they used to have the little matchbooks, all the little scripture on the matchbook or on the napkin, and it would be First Corinthians. Every wedding you go to. But a lot of people don't even realize that First Corinthians is for your mate, is for the
Yeah.
other person, but it's also for you.
For you, absolutely.
Love is patient, right?
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
is kind, not envious, not boastful, not proud, not seeking, not easily angered, keeping no records of wrong. It's always protecting, trusting, hoping,
Yes.
preserving, essentially outlining the characteristics of a healthy and selfless loved, right?
Yes.
Love. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's why people use it at weddings, but it has to start with loving God and loving yourself first so you can be able to come in as whole as possible. And sometimes you
Absolutely.
will have holes,
Well,
HOLES.
yes.
You will have holes, but God will make you whole, WHOLE, right? So it's all about learning and growing and doing things differently. My channel is all about changing the narrative when it comes to the Black community. It's about education, elevation, and entertainment. I want you to tell the people
Mhm.
why they should get your book and how this can change their relationships, their marriages.
Yeah.
And
So
talk
the
to the men since you wrote this for the men.
yeah. So the why, it's important. Why behind the is something I learned in management. So this is not going to be correct English. What I is want you to do is I want you to go buy the book, right? I is want you to go buy the book. The why behind it, I know that was I warned you it was going to be incorrect
I
English.
thought you were gonna say is you is or is you ain't my baby.
The why behind it is everything that we've been talking about for almost the last hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it There is nothing such as you've done it all,
Mm-hmm.
you know it all, you've
Mm-hmm.
maxed out. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't exist in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give a short story. I was at a men's event shortly after I wrote the book, and
Mm-hmm.
this man came up to the table, and I was selling the book, and a man came up to the table. He's like, I love, the book. I love what you've done. I love your story. He's like, but, I'm not going to buy the book, young man. I've been married 38 years, 30 something, 36,
Mm-hmm.
38 years, something like that. He said, so I'm good. He said, but keep it up, whatever. Right. And I said, well, I appreciate that, sir. He was much older than myself. I said, I appreciate that, sir. I said, but before you go, let me ask you a question. I say, have you done 52 romantic events for your wife in that 30 something years? He was like, no, I haven't. I said, well, then you need the book. And he bought it. And he bought it. So, in other words, you can't max out, like I just said. So, the why behind it is you want to be intentional, another word, purposeful, creative. And if you're already romantic, and that's great if you are, because I'm not the only romantic guy in the world, right? So, if you're already romantic, again, it's just like another recipe for food. You just take it, you're already a chef. You're going to put that thing on steroids. It's going to be better because you touched it.
Come on.
So you can get these romancipes and you're already a romantic guru. Just add your own salt, your own pepper, your own, whatever, Mrs. Dash, whatever you
Your own
use.
sauce.
You use this as a benchmark, as a starting point, and it just can spawn more creativity. I love music, and I'm a lyricist because I'm a writer. I
Mm-hmm.
can write some pretty good songs by myself just in my head. I've done it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
put me around a piano player, a
Mm-hmm.
guitarist, and a drummer, and I'll write even more material.
Come on.
So that's to say that's another why behind getting the book. So whether you're clueless about romance or if you do a pretty good job already, if you're introductory stage of a relationship or you've been married for 30 something years, well, clearly if you get a hold of something that's already cooking and you just add your stuff to it, it makes you more of what you are. It makes the relationship more of what it can be. And women love to know that we get them, that we're tuned
Yes.
in. They love that.
Yes.
And that's never going to
We
change.
do.
It's never going to get old for them. So those are all some of the reasons why you need to get this book.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. I love it. And you're doing a giveaway. Are you still doing a giveaway for the
I
book or you've
I
done that already? You did it
No, no.
already?
I am giving away, and actually the winner is Ashley Burton. So I'm gonna have to reach out to Ashley Burton.
Woo!
and,
Ashley.
yeah,
Yes,
and
yes,
get this
yes,
book
yes,
sent to her. Yeah. So I appreciate all of you who
yes.
tagged and who shared the page. And actually, if you tune in to the next episode, I'm going to give away 2 copies of the book. So
Yes.
just kind of go ahead and subscribe to this channel. I'm plugging you in. That was all from the fly. That's on the fly. That was not the intention. But
Thank you.
subscribe to the channel and watch for when episode 2 is coming out. And I'm going to give away 2 copies of the book in that episode. But yeah, Ashley Burton
I
is our
love
winner
that.
tonight.
Come on, Ashley. Yes, yes, yes. Look, she followed instructions and she did it. And look at you won a book. So you got to give it to your man.
Yep.
And even if you don't have your man yet, you don't have your husband yet, you got his first gift that
She
you're
got
going
his
to
first
give.
gift.
But she got his first gift already done. So, I'm definitely going to have you back either next week. We'll check his schedule. Either be next week, if you're available next Monday, or after that, we'll talk about that. But
Okay.
we're going to go into this book, right? And we're going to go through some. And I want you to just literally go through some, not all, because we want people to buy the book. But I
For
really
sure.
want you to go deep in there. There's so many different romancipes, and I want to know the meaning behind it and why you decided. And I want to know, we're not going to tell them now, if you did 52 of these for your wife, which one she liked the best. We're going to go through, we're going to get in his business, in his mind, about this book, because we want everybody. And this is part of remixing relationships. We got to remix the romance as well, because some people
Yes.
don't have romance, or they've been doing the same thing the same way for years.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you got to remix it. You got to keep the fire burning, and you got to breathe new life into it. All
Yes.
right. So, final question. What brings you joy?
Inside of a relationship or just life or
However you want to answer it.
what brings me joy? I will say there's a lot of answers to this. So my answer won't just be, oh, that's the only thing that brings me joy, right? So there are a lot of answers, but one of the things that really lightens my heart, because even though thank God you can't tell it now, I used to be very depressed. And I used
Mhm.
to be in a very dark place. Like I was in a
Mhm.
dark place for some
Mhm.
years prior to my second marriage. And
Mhm.
I literally thought that I would stay there. Again, me saying, this is what I deserved. So I had convinced myself that I deserved it. That's where I was. But the scariest part of it was I really thought I was going to stay there. So the thing that brings me joy now, and is perpetual, is the fact that I was so wrong that I didn't stay there. Now I didn't bring myself out. God did that.
Come
And
on.
that's an episode all by itself.
Come on.
But that's where my true joy comes from.
Yeah.
My wife is joy to me, my daughters, my son, and obviously my 3-year-old, because she's just amazing. But what really gives me all the joy, and all these
Yeah.
other things permeate from that, is the
Yeah.
fact that God did not leave me where I was, even though I deserved to
Woo!
be there. I
Woo!
deserved to be there. It wasn't like somebody had done me wrong and I landed there. No, no, no,
Woo!
no, no, no. I put myself there.
My God.
But the God that we serve was so loving and so amazing, and he too is intentional, that he was like, you know what? You made your bed in hell, but I told you I would come for you, because that's what I said in my word.
Woo!
And I'm not a man that I lie. So I'm gonna come get you out. And then I'm not gonna just get you out and put you somewhere where you can keep remembering how bad it was.
Mm.
Until I talk about it, Kendall, until I talk about it, I sometimes forget how bad it was, because that's how
Mm.
much he's brought me out.
Mm.
So that's the joy that I have. And it's perpetual, because I
Mm.
refuse to have a bad day. I don't know what that is anymore. I
Yeah.
might have something that didn't go well, but I don't have a
Yeah.
bad day,
Come
because
on.
the joy of the Lord really is my strength. It really is, because he could have left me where I was and he would have been clear. he would have been justified. But he didn't do that. And Kirk Franklin said it
My
in one of
God.
his songs, he does not treat us as our sins deserve. I am a living
Woo,
witness of that. So
woo,
that's what brings me joy more than anything.
woo. And
And
that's it. That's
everything
all.
else
What am
comes
I
out
supposed
of
to
that.
say after?
Yeah, everything else comes out of that.
Woo. Very well said. My God. My God. My God. My God. My
Yeah,
God. That
yeah,
if you're not tearing up right now listening to that, because that's so powerful. He's not going to leave you where you landed by the
yeah.
decisions you
You
made,
made
by the
exactly.
mistakes and hiccups you brought on yourself.
Yeah,
When he done told you
yeah,
what was what, right?
yeah, yeah.
Us thinking we know better than God, and he still saved you,
Yes,
saved us, right? And I think everybody has had that moment. And to see you now saying, you were depressed, you don't have a bad day, that is the goodness and glory of God,
yes,
right?
yes,
And being intentional, that's the word that has been used on this episode a multitude of times. And that's what it is, that intentional love for God,
yeah,
intentional love for ourselves, the intentional love for our partners, our mates, our
yeah.
our our husbands, our wives. And that's what it is, that intentionality to remix whatever it is, right? And do
Yes,
things differently so we can have better outcomes. This
yeah.
was awesome. This was awesome. This was amazing. And
Yes,
I
it
thank
was.
you everybody for commenting throughout the entire show. I pray that you come back for the next episode, episode 2, or part 2, I should say,
Yeah,
with Austin. As you can see that he has no problem expressing himself, right? He's able to, no, that's a good thing.
yeah,
That's a
yeah.
good thing. And that you're able to really recognize, right? And
Yes,
recognize the what you need to do and what we need to do. And I think it's so important, and just even trying to do a service, because this really, some people might say, oh, this is a cute book, but this is really doing a service to couples, right?
yeah, yeah,
To
for
to
sure.
not just talk about it, but to really put it into play, and making it
Yeah,
simple. And you are doing the work by helping relationships as a relationship coach, author, and just by being a husband, a father, you're showing examples to people who may not even ever see this, and may not even say anything to you, may not even tell you that they watched it. So
right,
I think that
right.
that's pretty amazing. I want to thank you for joining me on Remixing Relationships.
Thank you for having
Um,
me.
you're welcome. You brought a wealth of knowledge to people, and people are here supporting you. So yes, your wife said, absolutely, we will be here for part 2. For sure, for
Awesome.
sure.
Yeah.
And you did good,
Yes.
wife, setting up the live. All right. So tell the people how they can get your book quickly, and
Yeah.
your Facebook, because I know you're on Facebook.
Yeah, so Facebook will just be Henry Austin. I do go by my last name, so don't look for just Austin. It'll be Henry Austin on the Facebook. I also have the page, The Romance Gent, on Facebook as well. And then the book, Romancipes, can be you just go to Amazon, put in the title, and it'll bring that up. You can get a digital copy, and also, of course, I want you to buy a printed copy so it can come to your house and you can thumb through the pages. It's nothing like hearing the pages of a book go. So
Let me
I
cut
want you to
you
hear
off.
that noise.
Let me cut you off. We're not getting the digital copies. We're going to get this hard copy. This needs to be in your library. Your
Absolutely.
husband needs to be able to pick this up. Your man needs to be able to pick this up. This will make a good gift. Get one
Yes.
and gift one. Get one for yourself and give this to a couple. This will make a great wedding gift, right?
Yeah.
Give
Yeah.
these out. Get the hard copy, because when I got it and he sent it, it was more than I thought it would be.
Mm.
I didn't realize it would be this thick and this, the girth. Look at that. So
Mhm.
definitely get a copy. You can get the electronic copy if you want, but then also get this
Yeah. Get
as
them
well.
both.
He's doing
Absolutely.
God's work.
Get them
This
both.
is God's work.
Thank you. That's hilarious.
This
It
is
is
God's
God.
work.
It is
This is the
God's work,
hearing
though,
the
for real.
feet of the Lord.
This is Third Chronicles. That's what that is. Third Chronicle.
Right. Look, Jasmine said I'm about to cook up a romancipede right now. I know that's right. Come on now. Come on, Jasmine.
Thank you,
That's
Jasmine.
right. All right, everybody. Thank you so
Thank you
much for watching
thank you,
again.
Kendall.
Yes, yes,
Appreciate you.
yes, yes, yes.
And thank
All right.
everybody who tuned in. I appreciate you guys.
For sure. So definitely subscribe to my channel. If you want to give a love offering for us bringing this, doing God's work, definitely 99 cent of your hard-earned money. You can hit the heart. It says thank you in it. It's here live. And then once it's uploaded, which it'll be, I think tomorrow you'll still be able to, if you're watching the playback, you'll still be able to donate to the show. This is a labor of love. I do it definitely for free because it's important for me to help relationships. You know, I've had unhealthy relationships. I know what that's like, right? And we've all have been there and may not even be aware of it. But it's important for me to promote healthy relationships, especially in the Black community, and doing things differently. I'm a Black woman. Of course, I have love for, Black love as we are exiting the month of February, which is Black History Month, as well as Valentine's Day. So I like to call this the month of love, the month of Black love. So I think this show and this podcast, hopefully it is making you think differently. All right, everybody. So thank you so much, Austin. We will be back for a part 2. So
Next
guys,
week.
look out for that next week.
Next week. We'll go ahead and book
Next
it. That way people won't wonder when it's coming. So just next week. We ain't gonna do them like Netflix and wait 4 weeks and then throw them. No, we
No.
ain't doing that. We're gonna go on and give it to them next Monday.
All right. So next Monday. And for y'all Southerners, Monday.
Not Monday.
Monday. Next
Mundee. Monday.
right. Next Monday. All right,
All
everybody.
right.
Thank you for joining me today as we explore new ways to remix and strengthen our relationships in the romance department. Remember, healthy connections are within your reach, and together we can create the love and life you deserve. I am Kendall Anish, your fave life coach, the remix coach. So you have the power, as we talked about today. Intentionality is huge. Just be intentional about your relationships and doing things differently. Until next time, keep growing, keep healing, keep loving. Most importantly, keep remixing your life. It's never too late to remix your life or love at any stage, age, or phase. God bless y'all. Peace.
God
Thank you
bless
for
y'all.
watching.
Don't get mad. Get
Don't forget
romantic.
to comment. Here. Come on. Boom.